do this for the next 6 weeks or 5 weeks because it's leading up to Mother's Day. So I was like, well, let's just do a series on ladies leading up to Mother's Day, and I decided to name it Golden Girls of the Bible. Some of the most impactful women of Scripture are not always the ones that we know the most stories about. We know their names, we know their overall stories, but we're really going to just study what you don't always see. We're going to try to really get deep down. We're going to slow down and say, what happened, what's going on here? So I tried to pick women who, yes, who aren't perfect. Okay, they're not the most perfect women. They're real people living real situations, and we're just going to take a look at that. So each week we're going to take one story, stay grounded in the text, and really look at it closely. And my hope is that as we walk through this series, we begin to recognize how God's working in our stories with this. So today we're going to start with Jochebed. And so let's just go ahead and read Exodus 2, 1 through 3. Someone read that for me.
Now a man from the family of Levi married a Levite woman. The woman became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she saw that he was beautiful, she said to him, she hid him for 3 months. And when she could no longer hide him, she got a piper's. She got a basket from him and coated it with asphalt and pitch. She replaced the child in it and set it among the reeds by the bank of the Nile.
Okay, so we're going to come back to that in just a minute. But let's back up and do the backstory just a little bit. So before we even read a single verse about her to study her, we need to understand the world where she's living in. And you probably know this if you've seen The Prince of Egypt or if you've seen any of this, but let's just I'm going to not take for granted that we know what's going on. If we don't understand the pressure, we don't really understand the faith of this. So let's back up just a chapter and go to Exodus 1:8. Someone read Exodus 1:8 for me.
Then a new king, to whom Joseph meant nothing, came to power in Egypt.
Okay, so this is where everything begins to shift. Okay, Israel had once been welcomed in Egypt. Okay, there was open borders, they were welcome. But now they're seen as a threat. Okay, so someone read Exodus 1:9 through 10.
And he said to his people, behold, the people of Israel are too many and too mighty for us. Come, let us deal shrewdly with them, lest they multiply, and if war breaks out, they join our enemies and fight against us and escape from the land.
Okay, so Pharaoh begins to oppress them.
Thank you.
Okay, forced labor, very harsh conditions, systematic control. Okay, but then this oppression starts escalating. Read Exodus 1:16.
When you help the Hebrew women as they give birth, watch as they deliver. If the baby is a boy, kill him. If it is a girl, let her live.
Okay, when that plan doesn't work, Pharaoh issues a national decree. Read Exodus 1:22.
And Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, every son that is born shall you cast into the river, and every daughter you shall save alive.
Okay, so this is state-sanctioned death. Okay, we'll just say it like that, state-sanctioned death. This is a culture where the law of the land is directly opposed to the will of God. Pharaoh's done it. He's gone really far. Okay, Acts 5:29 says, and it's just, you don't have to read it, or turn there, I'll read it. But Peter and the apostles replied, we must obey God rather than any human authority. Jochebed is going to live this. Okay, she's about to live this out before these words are ever spoken. So, and into this environment, a child is born. Okay, so we just read Exodus 2 and starting with 1. So now a man from the house of Levi went and took this Levite woman. Her name's not even mentioned yet. Simply just a woman. He married a woman. Before she's known by name, she's known by her obedience. And then when we saw that he was a fine child, a beautiful child, I think your version said. So she looked at him and said, he's beautiful. That phrase means a lot more than if you just read it and realize it is. The word here used is tov, T-O-V, tov. We don't know. It means good, okay? Not just visually pleasing. This carries the idea of being right, fitting, purposeful, aligned with God's intention. It's the same meaning as Genesis 1 and 31. And God saw everything he made, and behold, it was good. It was tov. That's the same word she's using for Moses here when she looks at him. Now, this is not just a mom looking at her baby and saying, oh, my baby's beautiful. Okay, every mother thinks their baby's beautiful, right? Right, every single one. Okay. I was really hoping Reese wasn't here this morning. When Reese came out, she looked like this little old man. Is it true? I mean, it's true. Bless her heart. We showed up to the hospital and she looked like this little wrinkly, skin everywhere old man. She's so beautiful now, though. My goodness, look right there. This is what she looks like. But Holly was like, isn't she perfect? And we were just like, bald as can be. She's beautiful. But this is different. This is different. Okay, we thought she was beautiful. This is not just a proud mama moment. Okay, this is a tov moment. Not just cute, not just sweet, not just bald little old man. This is right. This is purposeful. This is significant. Okay, this is a recognition whether she understood what she was saying or not. This child mattered in a way that meant more than she even realized. Someone read Hebrews 11 and 23.
It was by faith that Moses' parents hid him for 3 months when he was born. They saw that God had given them an unusual child, and they were not afraid to disobey the king's command.
Hebrew tells us something that Exodus really doesn't say directly. This was an act of faith. It was an act of faith that they did this. So sometimes faith isn't like, I'm going to make this stand. I'm taking this stand in front of everybody. I'm standing on this rock. Sometimes it's a really quiet, serious decision. It's just a decision that nobody else knows about. It's just a private faith decision. And then the Bible says she hid him for 3 months. Can we just pause on that for just a minute? Have you ever been around a newborn? Not the kind where you just hold them for 5 minutes and give them back and they're just sweet as can be. Pray. Read your verse. Pray. Her alarm goes off every. She's like, I can't stop it.
I can't.
It's my read a verse alarm. The 2 a.m., the 5 a.m. newborn. You know that one very well.
11:32.
There, all of those newborns. Newborns don't whisper. Newborns don't cooperate. They don't say, "Hey, Mom, I know what stress you're under. I know that people are trying to kill me and you're trying to hide me, so I'm just going to keep it down." No. Newborns cry when they're hungry. They cry when they're tired. They cry when they're uncomfortable. They cry because they just cry, right? And she's trying to keep this baby quiet in a culture where if he's heard, he's going to be taken and killed. This is exhausting. Can you imagine this? Can you imagine constantly having to watch this baby? This is exhausting. She's tired. Every moment's living on this edge. This is not just one act of quiet faith. This is a constant battle for this faith. You know, it's, which is harder? A single moment of faith or having to live it out every minute, day by day, minute by minute? And then we come to this sentence that kind of marks a shift in the story. Exodus 2 and 3. When she could hide him no longer. The translation, the baby got louder.
Yeah.
Right? This baby, you know, when newborn babies, they just, you know, and it's really so cute, but then it's not so cute after a while. Right? 3 months later, it's not so cute. At some point, she realized, I can't do this. I cannot keep doing this anymore. When I was reading this, I think this is one of the most relatable parts in this whole story. There comes a point in a life when what you've been doing, what you've been holding together, right? What you've been managing, what you've been putting duct tape on for so long, it's just not working anymore. It's starting to kind of unravel a little bit. When everything you know to do, you've tried, you've adjusted, you've held on as long as you can, and you just say, I can't do it. I just can't do it anymore. Not because you didn't try or not because you don't care anymore, not because you're giving up. It's just because you've reached the limit of what you can control, right? She was obedient. She did what she could, but obedience doesn't always eliminate your limitation. If God tells you to walk, that's on you. That's all you. You can walk as far as you can to the edge of that sea. But when you get to that sea, you're like, okay, what now? That's your limitation. It's up to God to part that sea, right? So she got as far as she could. 2 Corinthians 12:9 says, my grace is sufficient for you. My power is made perfect in grace. Right. We have limitations. She had a limitation. God's power is not revealed when we are in control. When we're walking, that's our obedience. That's on us. But his power is made strong when our limitations kick in. Have you ever reached that place when you knew you had done everything you could and you just, there's nothing left to do? Mm-hmm. So what does she do? She doesn't collapse. She doesn't quit. Exodus 2:3 says she builds a basket. She builds a basket. The word basket here is teva. T-E-V-A-H. And this is crucial, and you might probably already know this, but that word is only used twice in 2 occasions, stories, in the scriptures. The other one is in Genesis 6-9, which is Noah's Ark. So the exact same word used for Noah's Ark is the exact same used for her basket. It's a place of protection, not just a basket, it's an ark. She was building an ark. Building an ark of protection, of preservation in the time of judgment. Same thing. Exact same thing. She couldn't stop the decrees. She couldn't control the future. She couldn't prepare anything else than what she had. So she had to prepare something to carry what she couldn't. What does it look like in your life to prepare what you can instead of trying to control what you can't? Does anybody have like a modern day example of, I can only go so far, but you can prepare for it?
With raising our kids, I mean, we can do so much. We can bring them to church. We can model that life, and we can walk out our faith. But at the end of the day, when they become of age, it's their decision to stick with it and to grow their own walk and, take their family to church.
That's a good one. That's really good. Yeah. You've prepared it. You've been obedient and done everything you're supposed to do. It's your limitation. She builds the ark. She seals it. She prepares it, and then she places a child inside of it. So, let's read Exodus 2:3-9.
But when she could no longer hide him, she got a papyrus basket for him and coated it with asphalt and pitch. She placed the child in it and set it among the reeds by the bank of the Nile. And his sister stood at a distance in order to see what would happen to him. Pharaoh's daughter went down to bathe at the Nile, while her servant girls walked along the riverbank. Seeing the basket among the reeds, she sent her slave girl to get it. When she opened it, she saw a child, a little boy, crying. She felt sorry for him and said, "This is one of the Hebrew boys." Then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, "Should I go and call a woman from the Hebrews to nurse the boy for you?" "Go," Pharaoh's daughter told her. So the girl went and called the boy's mother. Then Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child and nurse him for me, and I will pay you wages." So the woman took the boy and nursed him.
She built the basket, she prepared it, she reinforced it, and she did everything she could possibly do. And then she put it in the Nile. And that's where the part of the story is, if we're honest, we would probably still hold on.
Yeah.
Right? We built it, we got it ready, and we just don't want to let go. Just hold on. Exodus 2:3, she places him not in the middle of the river. She doesn't be like, okay. Right? She places him among the reeds, which tells me something. She didn't just toss him out in there and says, well, good luck. Right? She's still thinking. She's still doing what she can with it. You know, she has reached her limitation, but she's still doing what she can with that, as far as what she can. When you have faith for something, you're not careless with it.
Right.
Faith is not reckless. It's not careless. It's careful obedience. But the release has got to be real. You've got to take it out of your hands, right? You don't have to throw it or toss it. You don't have to, shove it, but you do have to release it. Exodus 2:4, his sister stood at a distance. So here's where it gets real. Miriam doesn't walk away. She doesn't just be like, okay, well, we'll see what happens. We'll see. Maybe a gator will get him, maybe not. She's not like that. The sister stood at a distance. At a distance. Not right beside it, but not completely gone either. Translated into modern language, she's close enough to keep an eye on it, but it's far enough where she can't grab it and take it back.
Got her hands off of it.
Hands off. Keeping her eye on it, right? But she can't just reach out and grab it. That's a different kind of faith. Letting go is hard. But resisting the urge to take it back, that's harder. That's harder. Because let's be honest, we're really good at giving things to God. We can go to the altar. We can pray in our bed at night and be like, I'm giving this to you, God. I'm giving it to God. It's yours. It's yours. What are you doing with it? You got it still? You still got it? Are you good with it? Do you need me to help? Are we good? Do we do that? You still got it, right? You still got my kids, right? You got my finances, right? You good on it? Okay. We're really good at checking on it. I'm just gonna stand right here in case you need me to take it back.
But when
Sometimes we
things go
pick
the
it
way-
back up.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sometimes, like I personally, I pick it back up and then I lay it sometimes at the altar 20 times.
Yeah.
I have to lay it at his feet and then 20 times, maybe more. If we're being real here, because my nature is control and order, and I want to make things perfect, and I don't even realize I'm doing it until he reminds me. And he's always so gentle when he reminds me, but lets me know.
Yeah.
It's like when things, when we give things to him, but then it doesn't go, or he's not handling the way that we think he should handle it, then we pick it back up.
Yeah.
At least I'm good at that.
Yes. That's not that I want you to do that. Let me, and I'll give it back to you in a minute. Let me just take it back and then I'll give it to you this way. Yeah. Let me change a few things and then I'll give it back to you.
Or he's not moving fast enough.
Oh, and I'm moving fast enough. I'm gonna carry it a little bit for you. We'll carry it and run with it a
Do
little
you
bit.
get ready, God? I'll carry it.
Yeah, I'll run with it a little bit and then I'll give it to you. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But Miriam doesn't interfere. She just watches. She just watches. Psalms 37:7, be still before the Lord. Wait patiently on him. Waiting is just choosing not to take control back. You just wait. And then something happens, not because she intervened, but because God was already working. Verse 5 says, now the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe at the river. Of all people that you want to see in this moment, right? Of all people, Pharaoh's daughter. That's the last person. Let's just say it. That's the last person you want to see in this situation is someone from that household. The very household that created the problem walks into the solution. Proverbs 21:1 says, the king's heart is a stream of water in the hand of the Lord. God is not limited by who's in power. He can work through anyone. Doesn't that make you feel better about politics? Okay. In government in general, I'm not a political person, but it just makes you feel better knowing that who has control over you. Even people you wouldn't expect, even people on the other side of the problem, God can work through them. 2:6 says, she saw the child, and what was the child doing? Crying. There he goes. There he goes. He's crying. What else would he do? All that work to keep him quiet. But don't miss this, that cry is what moved this princess's heart. That cry that she's been holding for 3 months, that's what moved Pharaoh's daughter's heart. So what felt like with the problem was, to begin with, was all part of God's plan. It's part of God's plan. Romans 8:28, we know that all things. Yeah. So she took pity on him, compassion. Compassion in the middle of what should not have been compassion. She knew the decree of all people. She knew the decree. And so Miriam steps in. Miriam steps in. Timing matters, people. Timing matters. She waited. She didn't step in. She didn't take the situation back. Then his sister said, shall I go call you a nurse? She didn't speak too early. She didn't rush in. She just waited. God started moving. Have you ever tried to step in too early? And realized later that, oh, I should have waited a minute. Should have waited a minute. Is patience one of your virtues?
No,
I didn't think so. So,
I have none.
just no patience. Step in too early. Discernment, we talked about that word before. Discernment is knowing when to move and when to stay still. Discernment. She had discernment. So 8 and 9 says, take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you wages. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Hold on. You mean to tell me she let her baby go? He floated down the wall. She just watched him float away, and now she gets him back and she's getting paid?
That's God. Yeah.
That's nothing she could have planned. That's something only God could do. Are you kidding me? Ephesians 3:20 says, now to him who is able to do far more abundantly than we could even think or ask. She released what she could not control, and God worked in ways that she could not even imagine. So where in your life have you said, God, I trust you, but you're just standing a little too close to it? You're just watching a little too close. Maybe if you stood back and let that plan float just a little bit,
That's good.
then you'll know when to step in. You'll know. God will show you. God will show you. Any thoughts on that part? We're gonna end early. I tried to make this shorter. I tried to time goes better. All right, let's look at part 3. Let's read Exodus 2 and 10.
And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son, and she called his name Moses, as she said, because I drew him out of the water.
The child got older and she brought him back to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. So the same mother who placed him in the river is now placing him into somebody else's home. It's kind of a second release, isn't it? But this time it feels different. The first time was really rushed. It was chaotic. It was panicked. It was urgent. There was no choice. She had reached the end of what she could do. But this one had a purpose. This one had a plan. She's had him back. She's fed him. She's watched him grow. She's had time, but now she has to give him up again. Sometimes God gives you things for a season. Sometimes God allows you to have things for a season, but they were never yours to keep permanently. Ecclesiastes and I think the Beatles in it. They said, is it the Beatles? Who was it?
Yes, time for every purpose under heaven.
Yeah, everything there is a season.
Who sings that?
Turtles.
The Turtles. There you go.
What?
I thought it was the Beatles.
No,
It's
it's the
somehow.
turtles.
The Turtles. Right. Well, God and the Turtles said, for every season, for everything there's a season.
Turn.
Turn. That's right. So for everything there is a season.
What?
I was thinking, I've never heard of the turtles before.
Ninja Turtles, Ninja Turtles.
We had some good groups back then.
Michelangelo, you know, that's not. Yeah. Rain with the big rat, yeah.
The little monkeys.
That's all. The monkeys are my favorite.
Did they just name animals?
Yeah.
The Beatles.
For a while, I'm sure they did.
They just ran out. They just started going through the zoo. That's hard for us. It was the 60s, yeah.
Yeah.
That's all they could do. That's hard for us. That's hard for us to have things for a season, right? We don't like temporary. We like control, right? Tiff, we like control. We like permanence. We like ownership. We're capitalists. We like ownership, right? But Jochebed understood something that we struggle with. The child was entrusted to her, not owned by her. Right? It's kind of how it is today.
Yeah.
We dedicate our children back to God. We're like, okay, we don't own them. We're entrusted with them. We're entrusted with them. Here's what we have to be very careful as studiers of God's word, because we know the rest of the story. We know the rest of Moses' story. We know he grew up in Pharaoh's home. He walked away from his identity. He stands before Pharaoh. He leads the people out of Egypt, Red Sea. We know this in our head. We're like, oh, we know the rest of the story. She did not.
Right.
So if we put ourselves, try to forget everything you know about the Prince of Egypt. She did not know the rest of the story. Hebrews 11:23, it says, by faith, Moses was hidden. Hebrews 11:13, these all died in faith, not having received the things promised. She's part of that story. She's part of those. She never got to fully see this played out. We want confirmation. We want results. We want to be able to look at something and say, that worked.
Yeah.
That worked. But God's plan doesn't always happen in our timeline. It doesn't always stay in our view. We can't always see the basket. We can't always see the end result when we give things to God. What does John 4:37-38, I just spit over, say?
For in this case, the saying is true: one sows, another reaps. I sent you to reap what you didn't labor for. Others have labored, and you have benefited from their labor. From till how long?
Yeah, no, you're
Oh,
good.
okay.
Some people plant. Some people water. Some people see the harvest. Jochebed, she planted. She planted. Exodus 2:10, she named him Moses because I drew him out of the water. Moses means drawn out. That's exactly what happened to him. One day he'll draw out a whole nation. Right. What began as a private act of faith, we know the rest of the story, becomes a public act of deliverance. God was writing something bigger, and all she could see was this moment, this little moment. That's sometimes all we're allowed to see. You might be in a place right now where all you're being asked to do is to be faithful with what you're seeing right here, right? You're not seeing what it's leading to. And you just have to walk in that. Walk as far as you can. Walk to the edge of the sea. Nothing seems to be happening. Nothing seems to be changing. Nothing seems to be moving forward. That does not mean God is not working. Galatians 6:9 says, do not grow weary, for in due season we will reap. Jochebed's story shows us three things. She obeyed when it was hard. She released when she couldn't control it anymore. And then she just trusted when she couldn't see the end result. We're responsible for obedience, the walk, but God's responsible for the outcome. And sometimes the greatest act of faith is just trusting God for something you may never see the ending of. Any thoughts on Jochebed?
I can't imagine doing what she did. I mean, I say my kids are God's, and I know that they are, but to actually physically let